Hi everybody, Giovanni here for Left Trigger, Right Trigger, and I've got a new YouTube series that we're doing right here on the Left Trigger, Right Trigger YouTube page. For some context, at the end of 2016, I kind of decided there were a lot of games that I should have played in my lifetime that I just hadn't for whatever reason. So I made a big list of about 30 or 40 games and decided to kind of start going through them and playing all of these games. And it's been a really interesting process going through and playing these games in 2017. So I got towards the end of that list and decided to remake it, a new 30 games, or a new old 30 games, and do this series where I take 3 biggest takeaways playing these games in 2017 and bring them into this video. So I'm going to be starting this series with the game that I just finished for the first time, which is Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. So this was the 3rd installment of the Mario RPG series, or the Mario & Luigi RPG series specifically, following Superstar Saga and Partners in Time. I hadn't played any of these games. I started with Dream Team, which is a very good 3DS game, and Paper Jam, which is a not good 3DS game, and decided I really should go back and play one of these games because they were very well reviewed. Bowser's Inside Story specifically, one of the best reviewed DS games, the best reviewed game in the franchise. I've always heard great things about it, and it's always sort of been on my list because of that. I've always heard it was this really charming game that gives Bowser a great spotlight. Reviews at the time said the same thing, the Bowser mechanics in it were great, he was a really welcome addition to it. So I decided to play this game because I picked up a used copy of it, and a bugged used copy of it, which kept just kind of freezing on me, but I got through it anyways, so it all worked out. Either way, here are my 3 biggest takeaways from playing Bowser's Inside Story from 2009 in 2017. Number 1, it is really, really weird that there has not been a solo Bowser game since this. When this game came out, reviews were so enamored with Bowser. The mechanics that were added into this game to kind of play as Bowser were really great. Instead of running and jumping, you kind of got to use his unique abilities like fire, these kind of big punches, his shell abilities, and it made for a really fun, interesting game that was really different, or felt really different than any Mario game before it. And reviews at the time were kind of saying, this seems like it's going to be a tease for a solo Bowser game, which will be great. And it's crazy that that hasn't been done, especially considering how much work Nintendo has put into developing Bowser's character since then. We see him in so many games like Super Paper Mario and games like that, getting a lot of character. Yet, he still hasn't had a solo outing. And I guess that might be a risky proposition for Nintendo considering the fact that Super Princess Peach didn't do super well when it came out on the DS. It's just interesting thinking, though, that they've spent so much time developing this character and do such a great job of it in this game. He's so charming, he's such a great anti-hero. It's kind of a disappointment that they haven't done that game yet. Maybe we'll get one in the future, I don't know, it seems like that ship has kind of sailed. But hopefully we get one because he really is a great character and he's so charming in this game. Number 2, man, the 3DS is a great system. The 3D feature doesn't really get used a lot anymore. In fact, they've kind of retconned it out of the 3DS with the new 2DS models. But the 3D, when it works, is really good, and the reason I noticed it for this game, which is a DS game that doesn't have 3D, is because there are certain battles where you kind of have an opponent use this jump rope attack on you, where Mario and Luigi have to kind of time jumps over this beam that kind of comes towards them. And without a sense of depth, it is really kind of difficult to do that. In Mario & Luigi Dream Team for the 3DS, it's a lot easier. You have the 3D on and you can really see where that line is when it's between the two brothers. In this, you have to rely a bit more on rhythm. It's less about seeing the depth between them and more about timing it right. And I really took for granted how great the 3D is on that system when it actually works. It's a really great feature. It just was poorly implemented because of the fact that the 3D, is so finicky. I highly recommend it if you haven't played on a new 3DS, which is what I have. The 3D really does work on it a lot better, and for certain games like, Super Mario 3D Land, for example, it really is a great little feature, and it's kind of a shame that that's not going to be a thing with the Switch, or anything probably going forward. I doubt they're going to do this again, but it is an underrated feature when it is used well. And I kind of wish it was in this game. And maybe if we ever see a remake of it, like we are for Superstar Saga, they will implement that. Who knows? And number 3, and this is my really big one, it's really fascinating to see Nintendo take really good mechanics for this game and misinterpret them so poorly for Mario & Luigi Paper Jam. So, as I said, Mario & Luigi Paper Jam, really not a great game, and this game provided a lot of context for what happened with that game. Basically, in Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, you have 3 characters. Mario and Luigi, who play on the A and B buttons, and Bowser, who gets used on the X and Y buttons. And it works really well because the mechanics for Bowser are really different. Like I said, you kind of have his unique abilities that kind of come into play. They decided to use that similar thing for Paper Jam, and recycle a lot of those mechanics for that. And it just does not work as well. And the reason it doesn't work as well is because in Bowser's Inside Story, like I said, unique abilities, it makes sense that you're using different buttons, and it's fun to play between the 2 characters, or the 3 characters. In Paper Jam, you are basically doing the same thing for 3 characters. They all just jump and hit hammers. The animations for Paper Mario are a little bit different, but for the most part, he does the exact same thing, so it becomes really tedious. Having the 3rd character doesn't actually add anything to the game, whereas here, it's a really different mechanic, and a really, really good mechanic. I mean, Bowser plays really, really well. And there's also other aspects of it. You know, in this you have the Mega Bowser battles where he turns really big. They do that in Dream Team, which works well, but in Paper Jam they try to do these weird papercraft battles where you have to ride around on a papercraft and do these really sluggish battles. And you can see where they kind of borrowed a really good idea from Bowser's Inside Story and just did it really, really badly, or just in a really tedious way. So it's just kind of fascinating to go back and play this game from 2009 where the mechanics really work, and then play a more modern game where somehow they really don't. They just didn't evolve in the right way. Again, this is a really great game. Bowser's Inside Story still really holds up. The only problems that I really saw with it are the same problems that kind of exist within the Mario & Luigi franchise as a whole. The battles can get a little bit tedious. You're kind of doing the same strategy for dodging and attacking as you go through. There's not a ton of variation. But for the most part, this one's got a really great story that holds up really well. Bowser's character, really entertaining. And overall, just a really fun RPG that doesn't overstay its welcome, unlike Paper Jam, which is such a long game for absolutely no reason. Anyways, that's it for this one. What game do you want to see me tackle next for this series? In the description, I've put a link to the list that I will be using of games that I'll be going through. Let me know in the comments if there's one you want to see me get to sooner rather than later, and I will try to get to that one next.